our barrels. Some of us tip right over the edge. But there's one thing really mystifying. Got me laughing now, it's got me crying. All my life will be testifying till I know. I wonder why the wonderfall. I wonder why the wonder falls on me. I wonder why the wonder falls. With everything I touch and hear and see.
Hey everybody, welcome to the second episode of our limited run podcast, Bobbin Along, where we discuss the hardly seen 2004 masterpiece, Wonderfalls. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we will be discussing the second episode in production order, Pink Flamingos, and I'm with my very special guest, my good buddy, and the producer of Gerardcast, our Buffy and Angel sister program, BJ Kramer's here. Hi, Beej.
Hi, everybody.
So we're on episode 2. BJ has heard me talking about how good Wonderfalls is for years now.
Yeah, give or take.
Give or take. And he has never watched it before, other than like passing by while I was watching episodes for the 6,000th time when we lived together.
Overhearing Brandon gushing about how wonderful it is while I'm doing other things. And I was skeptical, to say the least.
Yeah. But here we are. We're on episode 2. BJ, you started to watch it, gave up a little bit, came back to it.
Yeah.
And are you happy you came back?
I absolutely am. The first episode made me irrationally uncomfortable. I don't know why. And I just stopped in the middle. And then, I figured, hey, Brandon is really adamant that this is good. I will extend him the courtesy of trying again. And then the second episode was, to my liking, but much more. What was that? Is that English? I liked it a lot more than I liked the first one.
Yeah. The second episode really builds on that pilot. You know, the pilot, as everyone watching knows, pilots are made as a presentation more than an actual like individual episode of a show. So the pilot that was shot was actually... we talked about this last week, but I know you didn't watch, so I'll tell you now. The pilot was actually a reshoot of the original pilot, which starred Adam Scott and Kerry Washington as her brother and Mahendra, the bartender, instead. So that this was so the pilot of Wonderfalls is more shot in a cinematic way, I would say, versus this episode is really when we move into this hour-long format of episodes, of TV episodes, and we get reintroduced to a character that we meet in the first in the pilot, Gretchen Speck Horowitz, who is a fantastic character.
Terrific.
And she's in town, and she first of all she pretends to be her new boss, Jay's new boss, which gives Jay a panic attack because Gretchen was a bit of a bully back in high school. And then we find out that she's there to plan their 6.5-year high school reunion.
As one does.
Which is not a thing. She just couldn't wait another 3.5 years to have the 10-year reunion.
Yes.
And Gretchen is kind of the opposite of Jay. She's blonde, she's bubbly, she's successful, and she's like I don't know if you can relate to this, BJ, but to me, she's like every terrible person I went to high school with that became successful, and I had to watch their success build, knowing what awful human beings they are.
All I could relate to is later in the show what happens to her fiance. That definitely could relate to that.
And for some reason, she chooses Jay to help her plan the 6.5-year high school reunion. And the quote, I wrote this down because it made me laugh. She said, "The class officers are all so busy with their careers and their families, so naturally I thought of you," which I can relate to a lot. Everyone that I went to high school with like moved on, got married, had kids, has a career, and I'm just like floating about. I basically haven't aged out of high school yet.
I assume this will continue, but it seems like, in the first 2 episodes, that has been a theme of people seeing Jay this way,
yes,
as the underachiever, and sort of stuck doing kind of nothing.
And she's also such a narcissist, and she's so, and I mean, that's the thing about Jay is like, I love that character, I relate to that character, but she's the most self-centered person in the world, and now she just has to like help people, and it's against her wishes, but she has to do it, or else the voices in her head torture her, which I don't relate to that.
Yeah, it also, even that seemed a little self-centered to me. You know, she did it because she was being tortured, and then she does it, like especially in this episode, following essentially blindly without caring at all about the people. Well, caring perhaps, but not enough to not listen to the voices in her head, which still seems a little self-centered to me.
Yeah.
I would have hoped there would be a little more of an attempt to follow along with the instructions and yet not be cruel.
Right.
But
well, and she is disgusted with the prospect of having to host this event. Like it makes her sick. And then Mahandra, her bartender friend Mahandra, played by Tracy Toms, is remembers when she what did she put in it? She put something in her shampoo and her hair got relaxer in her shampoo.
I forgot.
Yeah. And it gave her a huge afro for her class pictures.
It was a wonderful picture.
It is just a good picture.
And she rocked it.
And all her hair fell out afterward.
That might not have been good.
And Jay is now at the point. The episode opens with Jay and her dad getting in the car. Her dad is bringing the trash cans in or out.
He's bringing them back.
He's futzing with the trash cans, and she doesn't listen to the Flamingos, and the car backs into her dad and puts him in the hospital. So she's a little more interested in following what the muses say because of that incident.
Although it does seem a little different than the other times she's told what to do. In this case, is just pretty straightforward. You know, prevent dad from getting injured, and there doesn't seem to be any bigger, point to it. Whereas the other times have been really obtuse and complicated. With multiple steps to
correct
get going.
But for the viewers, this is also like the first indication that this is not just in her head, because there's real life implications when she doesn't listen to them, and that's an interesting take, I think.
Yeah, because the other stuff, the stuff in the first episode, could have happened without her involvement. So but this shows that she knew the future essentially.
And it's more satisfying, in my opinion, it's more satisfying to watch those things happen with real life consequences than to watch the confusion, like in the pilot episode where she was confused as to what she was supposed to do. Like now she has to add goals in her life that she was content to not have before.
That confusion led a lot to the discomfort I experienced in the first episode. I felt like there's no obvious connecting the dots here. She just has to engage in awkward interactions with people. But this episode kind of cleaned that up a little bit. The interactions were still bad, but they weren't bizarrely awkward for no obvious reason.
We're also barely in the gift shop in this episode. So where the first episode is really centered in the gift shop and everything is about where she works. In the second episode, we're really out in the world, which is pretty ballsy to do on a show that is just taking off and we're establishing these characters and where they are.
I think they made that okay by starting there, essentially.
Yeah.
With what's his name? The actor who was in Eureka, who I adore. Hang on.
Neil Grayston.
Yeah, he's great. There he is. He's really great.
Yeah, and Naomi, our tech girl, social media wizard, she loves Eureka, and she brought that up to me. I still have never watched it.
I watched every episode. It's fluffy. I mean, it's not an important show, but it was delightful.
Yeah,
and ridiculous.
Will points out that he likes the struggle of not wanting to do what she's told, but seeing that bad things happen when she chooses not to listen. And then he also points out that if she doesn't listen, bad things happen, but good things still come out of it, which by the time we get to the episode, we find out that it's a good thing that her dad got hit by a car.
Right. So had she listened to the Flamingos, dad might have died.
Right. So, but maybe the Flamingos knew that she wasn't going to listen. Like, I don't really know. Like, maybe it's all, maybe it's all like,
Flamingos are assholes.
Maybe predestination is just a thing and free will is a myth.
Okay, glad we sorted that out.
And, in this episode, we see the flamingos, the aforementioned flamingos talking. We also see a fish mounted on the wall at the Barrel, the bar that she hangs out in, and her hair clip talking. So those are our three talking animals in this episode. And like you said, the instructions in this one are a lot less cryptic than they were in the past. It's get off your ass, help her with the event, and then destroy her. Yeah.
Pretty straightforward, no interpretation necessary. Still a bit mysterious as to why and what the end game is. And in this particular case, the first one, the get out of the car, is pretty straightforward. Like, why? Help Dad not get injured. The second one seems to be pretty straightforward as well. Help Gretchen, fine. But when she gets the command to destroy her, that is completely mysterious. And by the end, it isn't clear to Jay what the benefit of that was. I mean, perhaps just that Gretchen became a little more self-actualized, but the other ones she would understand clearly.
It kind of seems like the goal of this was to help Gretchen's husband. He was the one that benefited most.
That was my point, and Jay would have no idea about that.
Correct. Right. And I think the second episode, the first episode is all about interpretation and what the muses are saying and this mysterious sort of chain of events that's happening. Whereas in this episode and in future episodes, it's all about the intent of the muses, whether they're working together or if they're testing Jay to see if she'll make the right choice.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, there's just that running theme at this point where you don't really. One of the things that I want to talk about eventually as we go on is the plot points that were addressed in the commentary for the episodes that they were going to explore in season 2. One of them is that there's another lion that's made by the wax machine, and it has an intact face, and it tells her to stop listening to the smushy face lion because the smushy face lion is evil. So
okay, so that is only in the commentary, or did it actually get
that's
into the
only in the commentary. It never makes it into an episode, but it would be really interesting, and we have some scheduled interviews with some writers of the show, and I'm planning on drilling them for information on that.
Nice. I'm going to leave commentary watching to you.
Yeah, I've watched them all a million times. It's something I remember. It was Activator in the shampoo, by the way. And Naomi is a hairstylist, and she says that made her scratch her head. Why would Activator create an afro? I certainly don't know.
Maybe Naomi could, chime in and tell me what an activator is.
And then Naomi says that Gretchen is such a freaking shiksa, it's almost painful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. A similar dynamic to the character in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, if you've watched that. She has a sister-in-law who is super into being Jewish. Whatever. Reminded me of that.
Yeah, and then we find out that Gretchen's like super ultra cheerful cheerleader sort of attitude is a front, and that her marriage isn't as happy as her couples cards and her photo albums, and God, I hate people like that. Here's us at our honeymoon.
She has no friends. It's not just that.
She has no friends.
No friends.
Jay's mother is her only friend,
right?
Which I love. I love that she gets invited to the in-crowd meetings, that she's always been in the in-crowd, even when her daughter wasn't. It was fantastic.
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Diana Scarwood.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
I know I've seen her in other things. I just can't remember what, but she's terrific.
She was in, if I remember, well, I know that she was in the movie Mommy Dearest. She played Joan Crawford's daughter in Mommy Dearest.
No kidding.
She was, I believe she had an Oscar. Yes, she was nominated for an Oscar for the movie Inside Moves, and she was nominated for an Emmy for her work in the television film Truman. She was also in Pretty Baby, Rumblefish, Silkwood, Psycho 3, Extremities, The Neon Bible, What Lies Beneath, Party Monster, The Clearing, and Another Happy Day. I've seen half of those.
But this is interesting. She earned a Razzie Award, became the first actress to receive an Academy Award nomination to winning a Razzie in just 1 year.
What did she win her Razzie
for? I don't know. Let's take a look here.
This has been BJ and Brandon Google things.
I don't know. It's not easy to find, so I'm not going to continue.
Okay, people who are watching, look up what she won her Razzie for and throw it in the comments. Diana Scarwood. Anywho, so Jay doesn't have any plans. But then what I like about the show is that it shows Jay as being sort of aimless and listless and whatever. But then it also shows Gretchen, who has all these plans, and her plans go to shit too. So it doesn't really. I don't think it favorites one choice over the other in that regard.
And Jay's comfortable with it.
There's an embrace of the chaos of the universe that this show really nails that I really enjoy. So she the lessons that Jay kind of learns in this episode are, first of all, that the villains from high school aren't really as bad as we remember them being. They were just like normal people, like growing up with it. I think that all of us might have been the villain in someone else's story.
Oh.
You know?
I'm sure I was not.
Yeah, well, sure.
I was far too uncool to be a villain for anyone.
This is why I need a female to co-host with me sometimes, because I feel like women are much Naomi says she won worst supporting actress, but what was it for? What film? Well, Wart supporting actress. It's for Mommy Dearest. Great.
Really?
Yeah. 1981, Mommy Dearest. So anyway, we're at the reunion. We Used to Be Friends is playing, the Veronica Mars theme song.
That took me back.
Yes.
To watch Veronica Mars, which I adored.
Yeah, Veronica Mars is great. We're already talking about doing a Veronica Mars podcast. So yeah, we learned that Karen has an eternal in with all the popular girls. We find out that Mahandra's more assertive than Jay, but she knows when to back off. And Eric is sort of this advice-giving bartender who has this neurotic thing where he counts the letters in people's names. And eventually, Jay is told...
Straight guy question here. He is fabulously good looking, right?
He is incredibly attractive.
I picked up on that.
It's almost upsetting how attractive he is. And sweet and charming, and that actor is just fantastic, and I love that character, and we get a lot more of him as the show goes on, including meeting his fiance.
Yeah, I know who that is. That's great.
Yeah,
I'm already a fan.
You know who plays her?
That's what I mean. That's Jewel State, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Blood Fire.
So then we see the hair, the chicken in her hair, the chicken pin in her hair.
It's supposed to be a rooster, right?
Whatever.
No,
it is. Yeah, go Roosters. Yes. But says to destroy Gretchen. So Jay walks up with her Mai Tai and throws it on her dress. And then here's what I like about this show.
Such a girl way to destroy something.
I know, right?
Anyway, please.
Here's what I like about this show. Oh, and Will also points out that I'm wrong. It's not his fiance. It's his wife. They did get married. You are correct. What I like about this show is a dumber show would have had the scene where the astronaut's been waiting to talk to her the whole night. He goes in, he helps her. I'm so happy that things didn't work out, because now I get to spend time with you. I always had the biggest crush on you, whatever. Right. And in a dumber show, they would have gotten together.
Right.
But in this show, she
has a mace.
No connection. There's mace, but no connection.
Are we done with him, or does he come back?
We are done with him.
Oh, that's fantastic.
He is out. She goes off into her triumphant new life, where she realizes that her husband doesn't love her. She is going to drop the hyphen but keep the ring. It's great. It's fabulous. And then we see her husband. Her husband, who is on the way to the reunion, gets in a horrible accident because Jay's on the phone and tells him basically to fuck off. Gets in a terrible accident. The police and the paramedics come out. And is it the paramedic woman or a cop? It's a paramedic. It's a Jewish paramedic that helps him. And then we see fire, lightning, chemistry. And then we fast forward down the line of photos and we see them building their family. And then he gets
more religious as they go.
And getting more religious as time goes on. And
until they look like my cousins.
Correct. The other subplot that I want to address is something that Alice just brought up. And I love this bit too, is Jay's sister, who is taking care of the dad with the broken... with a shattered leg or whatever it was, and decides that she's going to drug him so she can have her lesbian lover over. Mm-hmm. And the drugging doesn't work quite as well as she intended it to work. And I love the scene when he's just up there standing in his underwear while they're making out on the floor.
It's so hard for me to see William Sadler in this role because I saw Die Hard 2 like 50 times. And he's the bad guy in that. And then he's also Death in Bill and Ted. And most importantly, he's in Star Trek Deep Space Nine as a guest in a bunch of episodes. And all of that is so different from him. It's like watching Malcolm in the Middle after watching Breaking Bad.
Right. And he's in Shawshank as well.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. William Sadler is like one of the best actors working in Hollywood. Like he's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So we see him, whatever, he witnesses this Sharon and her girlfriend hooking up on the floor. He goes back to bed and then he calls Jay, has Jay pick him up at the hospital. Turns out he had a blood clot in his leg. And if he hadn't been hit by the car, they would have never found it and it probably would have killed him. So there is this, like, the muses, which is what we call the voices. They're called in the script the muses. The muses, like, because Jay didn't listen to them and because the car hit him, it worked out and he's going to survive or whatever. And then I love the line of, did you know our basic cable includes lesbian porn?
And you hear the screech of the brakes as soon as he says it.
So
I do like that Jay sort of encourages this.
Correct.
Which is
correct.
Oh, that's right. And they also tell her to say "I love you" to her sister.
Yes, and then her sister is like confused, and she's like, "I thought that was gonna feel grosser."
Yeah. Like, I don't think I'm gonna say it again. She's like, "Yeah, birthdays and holidays."
Yeah. Jay's brother is not in this episode.
Yeah, he's too busy, I guess, being Ronan the Accuser.
Right, or being whatever from The Hobbit. Who gives a shit?
Oh, he was?
Yeah, I don't know who he's in the Hobbit movies, but I have no idea.
So another movie where you don't see his face, probably.
But he was on Pushing Daisies as well. He was the lead actor of Daisies. Yeah,
and that's a good show.
It's very good, and it's in the same universe as Wonderfalls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go. In fact, a character from the Trailer Park episode of Wonderfalls appears as the same character in Pushing Daisies, and it's great.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah, she's actually played by Beth Grant, who was in the last episode of Angel. She was the mom of the ghost that sealed him in the wall.
Really?
Yeah, she's great.
Wow.
Yeah, Alice says Lee Pace. Lee Pace plays the brother. Mm-hmm. And Will points out that Jay and her sister is the best relationship. They're very protective of each other. I agree. I love their dynamic. They don't look anything alike.
Mm-hmm.
They don't look like they could be sisters, but I love the dynamic. And Katie Finneran, who plays Sharon, is so good.
So far, everybody's perfect.
Yeah, it's really well cast. So what do you think about where the show is going, BJ?
It's really up in the air right now. It's clear that while this is happening in her head, there's reality to it, as we've discovered, especially with the car accident. So there's a supernatural element that is yet to be explained, which is not itself something terrible. Right. But I have my doubts that it will be, and that will be disappointing to me, although probably would make for a better show. Because you don't want everything to be tied up in a bow, especially because I don't think anybody thought this was going to be one season and canceled.
No.
The
thing is, when the show premiered, it got fantastic reviews. Mm-hmm. So it was really shocking to everyone involved that had never really found an audience. And it was Fox was airing it in the Friday night death slot. They were airing the episodes out of order, like they did to Firefly. It's the same exact situation, except that Wonderfalls really never found its fan base later, like Firefly did.
Why do you suppose neither of them found it at the time?
I think it was just a weird time for television. It was before, what do you call a TiVo? It was before TiVo. It was before all this other stuff. There wasn't a lot of marketing. They were airing, both of them aired on Friday nights, which is just like nobody's at home watching TV on Friday nights. So unless you've recorded on your VCR these episodes, which I did, you don't see them. And honestly, there was a website, savewonderfalls.com, which is still up actually, and it's kind of interesting to look at because it's very, I think it hasn't been updated since maybe 2008.
There's one entry in 2014, and the one before that is 2005.
Oh, well, there you go. But Save Wonderfalls was this campaign that fans launched to get the show released on DVD. It was only there were very few examples of canceled shows getting released later. So Wonderfalls getting released later was really impressive, and it didn't really sell very well on DVD. The DVDs are a little hard to come by. Sold one to me. Sold several to me, frankly.
Yeah. I was disappointed. There's not a whole lot of extra content.
No.
There's some commentary. There's the very bad music video.
It's awful.
It's awful.
Yeah.
But okay, it's there. Wonder what they made that for.
Yeah. Yeah. Naomi says it was in the time of, if you missed it forever. Yeah. And that's really what it was. And they only aired 4 episodes. The other 8 were only on the DVDs. And we have amazing guest stars on these episodes too. We have Louise Fletcher. We have Rue McClanahan. We have Beth Grant. We have Eddie K. Thomas. Like, there's really, really great guest stars here. It just, the show never found an audience, and I'm kind of hoping our little podcast eventually gets around to exposing some people to a show that they might not have otherwise seen.
Especially once you get like a female on the show.
Exactly. Well, last week we had I don't even remember who was on last week. I can't remember this shit.
You remember the show perfectly.
Exactly.
Real life,
not so much.
Not so much.
Before we go, I forgot to do this earlier, so here we are. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/GurArdcast. If you come and sign up, it's $5 a month. You have access to all of our bonus content. You get in our super, super secret Facebook group, so you can interact with me and my co-hosts and our guests and whoever else directly. We'll also be putting the full-length interviews when we start interviewing the cast and crew of the show on there. So keep an eye out for that. Our original podcast, GurArdcast, which is a Buffy and Angel recap podcast, is on every single podcast server you can think of. We're on Amazon, we're on Stitcher, we're on Spotify, we're on iHeartRadio, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Podcasts. You name it, we're there. Just look for us, GurArdcast. I believe the first 28 episodes are live now. The others are coming up in the next couple days, and then we will be updating them live as we record them.
We're on services that no one ever heard of.
Exactly.
And the ones people have, just to be clear.
Here in about an hour and a half, we will be reviewing the Buffy episode Wild at Heart and the Angel episode Sense and Sensitivity. Myself and my co-host Jill Rocket Rose and our special guest Heather Malone from the Nevers podcast. And coming December 1st is Wingin' It, a West Wing podcast with myself and my co-host Apollo Pizzell. I have never seen West Wing other than little short clips, and I know that they walk down halls and talk to each other, so I'm really excited to talk about that. And that is all she wrote. Thank you guys so much for watching. Oh, look, it's Gretchen. Oh, one more thing I wanted to add. Gretchen Speck Horowitz also reprises the actress who plays her, whose name has gone out of my mind now. Chalum something? I don't know. She reprises her role.
I don't know how you pronounce it. The last name is Simmons.
Shalom Simmons.
C-H-E-L-A-N.
She reprises her role on the TV show Hannibal, where she's picking up a prescription at a pharmacy. Mm-hmm. And she says the same line, that she's losing the hyphen and keeping the ring.
In the ring.
Thank you, guys.
She did not say that on Psych.
See you next week, Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific, when we will be talking about the next episode, and I don't remember which one it is. I think it's Wound Up Penguin. All right. Bye.
Bye.